Hello, and good morning or afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you find yourself here. Today we're going to be talking about the physiologic anemia of pregnancy and why it's important.
Why?
I'm no authority, I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you what I've learned. And that is that your blood doubles in volume by the end of your pregnancy. And most of that expansion happens like midway through the second trimester. Around week 20, it starts to really pick up. And around week 30, it gets so high. Your blood volume is expanded so much that you start to see a dip in your numbers, like if you were monitoring your hemoglobin or hematocrit, whichever numbers it is that you pay attention to, because I was following both of them actually, but for my first pregnancy only followed the hematocrit. And it's not something that you even necessarily need to track, but just in case you're interested in it, or if you're seeing a regular provider like an OBGYN, or even if you have a midwife and she's concerned about, some of the symptoms that you might be experiencing and you're following it for whatever reason, or just curiosity. That's why I was following mine, because I had heard about this physiologic anemia and just kind of like wanted to watch it happen. So when this happens, you get such a massive expansion that you do go into like clinical anemia at some point. It's not a guarantee. Some women don't get anywhere near it. Some women are, just have a different relationship with their blood and their body, and it doesn't get to the point ever in their pregnancy where they dip into, you know, clinical anemia, like what would be considered actual anemia, and what would be treated as, needing to supplement in that sense, to compensate for the expansion of your blood volume. So the reason that this happens is because your body actually is not expanding just the like red blood cell portion of your blood, because there's two parts to your blood, right? Well, really three, but we learn about two. We learn about the red blood cells, which is like what makes up the tissue of your blood, because blood is a living tissue. Isn't that just amazing? I love that it's seen as a tissue and not like a fluid or something like that. So you have your red blood cells that make up the living tissue of your blood, and you have your plasma. Most of what the expansion actually is actually the plasma. And that's because what does plasma do? Well, it moves around things like white blood cells. And what are white blood cells used for? Things like wounds and illness. Well, we know that pregnancy isn't an illness, but we do know that you have a pretty massive wound by all measures by the end of your birth process. By the time that you've delivered the placenta and your baby and everything, it leaves a placenta-sized wound in your uterus. And like while involution happens and all of those things, that expansion in your blood not only is meant to compensate for the loss of blood that you experience during childbirth, which can be anywhere from less than a cup to more than a cup, but it's usually right around a cup, for most women. Some women tend to bleed a little bit more physiologically and aren't hemorrhaging. It's fascinating. Look it up. There's plenty of stories. We're not going to get into that, although I wanted to just tangent on the wide range of physiology. I won't. The majority of people are going to lose a cup of blood, during the birth process or shortly after.
A bird.
Yes, of blood. Thank you, baby. Don't move that. And the rest of the plasma is meant to be able to rush in with those white blood cells and help with the involution process and be able to help start healing those broken blood vessels of the placenta that's now detached from your uterus. So you get like this whole influx of these helper cells that are just meant to go and, do their job and that's why we have so much of an expansion of blood, not only to carry more nutrients, you know, and should anything, I do believe that it's also kind of like a fail-safe. Like if you lose any amount of blood, I had a pregnancy where I was bleeding from week 12 until I delivered at week 32, and he's fine. He's right here, nursing. I believe that if we didn't have that massive expansion of blood volume, there's no way that I would have made it through that pregnancy. I just would have lost too much blood. I mean, it was at times significant and at times not. And I know that's something that happens to other women too, for various reasons. Mine was a subchorionic hematoma. And it just amazed me that my numbers were what they were. They only actually dipped into like concerning levels one time during my pregnancy, and that was between, I think it was right around week 29 or 30 when the massive expansion for the third trimester starts to happen. So I think there's many reasons, but the two that we can kind of pin down are, you know, the carrying of nutrients, the fact that you have to, you know, no, you're not going to hold it. I'm almost done. The fact that you have another body that you're supplying with blood, even though there's not an exchange, I think that even though you have another body inside of you, I think that that is, you know, that and the amount of tissue that you have growing in your own body, right? All the weight that you gain means that you're going to need more blood. And the amount of white blood cells that you need to heal the placental site afterwards, life with the toddler, is why that plasma increases. Would you like to say hi? Come say hi. And then say goodbye and say thank you for listening. Let's tune in next time. Physiologic anemia.